Hey guys, RJ here, and yo, that episode 10 of 13 Reasons Why, it was amazing. I love how they're channeling this show. I think they're shooting it perfectly. I love the way that they're presenting these things. So let's dive into our episode 10 review of 13 Reasons Why. This is my usual line if you've not been here before, but there are spoilers ahead. I don't want to spoil any of 13 Reasons Why, so if you have not seen episode 10 on Netflix, go watch it, come back here, then watch the review. So tape 5, side B, ends up being Sheri. This is not who I thought it was going to be. I kind of thought this one would be Clay. I like the way that they framed this episode with Sheri at its center. I think she's one of the few kids that is actually like good at heart. Like I think maybe her and Alex. I think Chloe at sometimes is as well, and maybe even Zach. I feel like those are the only characters that really feel remorse for what they did or feel at all responsible, whereas you have like people like Marcus and obviously, I think Justin is actually in a lot of pain, especially after we see this episode. But people like Bryce and Marcus, they don't even care about what happened, like what they did, whereas you see other characters are a lot more affected by what Hannah did. So I don't know. I like the way that they bring Sheri into this. We see what she did on the tape, and I like the way that they portray her trying to actually fix the situation or at least do something about it. So the big secret for episode 10, and this makes so much more sense, they were hinting at this throughout the beginning of the series, was someone else had recently died, so they'd lost 2 kids at the school recently, and no one ever made sense of that from earlier on in the season. Now this all makes sense. This makes so much more sense as to what I was thinking before. So we end up learning that pretty much, when they went to Jessica's party, this is almost a continuation of last episode, then we see Clay go outside. He runs into his friend Jeff, the one that you've seen before that's been tutored and helped him go on the dance floor to go see Hannah. And I love him as a character. I think he's great. I think he's super nice. I think he's one of the few jocks that actually has a soul. So I loved him. I liked Clay and him basically exchanged for a few minutes. Then he's like, I'm going to go on a beer run. And Clay's like, I got to go. So, and we still don't know what's happened. We see a few little mini highlights of what maybe happened between Clay and Hannah, and I gotta know how that whole scenario went down, but we're just getting little flashes of them taking off each other's clothes, or at least that's what it seems. You're like, hey RJ, how does Sheri fit into all this? Well, that one's pretty easy. Pretty much she ends up taking Hannah home or offering to take Hannah home, and she says that she's not drunk at all, and I still don't really know because she does a cartwheel or whatever. That doesn't mean squat, but I don't know if she was actually still decently intoxicated. Her and Hannah end up, she was the only one driving. She ends up driving, hits a stop sign, and this basically starts the butterfly effect throughout the entire episode where eventually Clay comes upon this car wreck site that was the exact same stop sign, and then we eventually learn at the end of this episode one of the people that was injured they were killed in the car accident was Jeff himself. And I think they add a great twist onto this where pretty much the parents and everyone else at the school, including Clay himself, believed that Jeff was a bad kid, that they were still mad at him because, he drove drunk, or at least that's what they assumed. And, we eventually learn through, the multiple tales we get from Hannah, we get Clay kind of piecing this together and he was part of the story. And then we also have Sheri who admits yes, I hit the stop sign. So we know at least that Hannah wasn't lying, and we get all of these pieces finally put together, Clay coming onto the scene, and then he sees Jeff and he just starts freaking out, and he sees all the blood in the car and he calls 911. He does the perfect thing, at least, he doesn't just run away or anything. But yeah, we end up learning that this probably could have been prevented if Hannah and Sheri had just called the cops and told them about the stop sign. Might have sent someone out there, and then, maybe Jeff, it's hard to say. It really is, because the world's, full of chance. But it's hard to say that that didn't have any effect. The stop sign wasn't there. It looks like Jeff just ran right through the lot or through the intersection, and then this old man ran into him. And it just makes so much more sense now why he's not in the story in present day. I've been waiting for him, present day Clay to do stuff. I don't know. I just thought that they would interact more, and I've been waiting for it. And I was like, maybe this is a script error or something. It never even dawned upon me that he was going to be one of the ones that had already died and pretty much affected Hannah. And I love the way that they built this in. And the main point of this episode isn't just to, show what Sheri and Hannah might have done wrong in this, or even Jeff himself, but the main point of this episode is the ending. But before we get to that, let's talk about what Clay and Sheri try to do to at least make the situation better. And pretty much that is Clay eventually goes and informs Jeff's parents like, hey, he wasn't drunk. This didn't actually happen the way that people thought it did. The stop sign was down. And I thought that was a very like ridiculously touching scene because Clay is being like very open and honest with himself. He's like, I was mad at Jeff for dying and driving drunk and doing that, being irresponsible and leaving us like this. And when he eventually found out how he really most likely died, I feel for that family. I feel for Clay. That whole scene was really good. I like the way that they played that out and how like kind the parents were to him because they finally like this is something that they can finally close, like a book that they can close, and I bet they feel a lot better about it now than when they had the funeral for their son and thought that he was just a drunk driver. So yeah, I props to Clay for at least having the stones to go and tell these parents exactly what happened. And yeah, I wish someone else had done it sooner. One more important scene before we get to the last one is I really, really was going in, like all in on the scene between Mrs. Baker and Mrs. Jensen, right? They're kind of enemies right now because she is the litigator on the opposing side. And, you can see them like kind of going at it in the meeting where they're offering a settlement, a couple $100,000 and, we'll try and redo a few of our, school things that we have. And it just doesn't seem like it's actually that genuine of an offer. I mean, obviously that is a lot of money, but I think that the Bakers are looking for something more. They want answers. I think that's pretty much the end all be all for them is it's not even just about the money. And that is exactly what Clay's mom ends up saying in this episode is, I wouldn't even say that there's an amount of money for if I had lost my son after Hannah's mom asks her that. And she says, I don't think there's an amount of money. I think what I would want to know is the truth. Speaking about truth, let me lay some truth on you. I gotta say that end scene with Tony and Clay and pretty much the question that we've all been waiting for to hear this entire time throughout this entire series. And that is, did Clay kill Hannah Baker? And I think it's kind of obvious, even though, okay, so Tony says he eventually, after Clay like pushes him and pushes him and pushes him, Tony's like, you did not kill her. We all killed her. We all could have given her a rope out. And then eventually Clay pushes him further and it's just like, did I kill her? Like, answer the question, Tony. And then he eventually says yes. And I'm going to have to disagree. One, it's not the last tape. So I just like, there has to be something worse. And two, it's just, it wouldn't fit the storyline at all if Clay actually was, the main one at fault. Like, I'm sure there's something that he could have done, or, he doesn't say I love you or something. I don't know. I could see him not doing something, but I really doubt that there's something like physically violent or verbally abusive that he said or did to Hannah. I think this is more going to be like a play on words that Tony's using for this. So I don't think he's at fault. I'm definitely going to watch, obviously. I really kind of doubt that he is the reason that she ended up deciding to make this choice. So I'm really curious. The song at the end was perfect again, by the way. I was like sitting there like, yep, like click next episode, please. And yeah, I'm ready. I'm going to go downstairs and watch it right now. But yeah, guys, that end scene, well, just like I've been saying this every single episode, that end scene for 13 Reasons Why is phenomenal. They know how to hang you off on the end of an episode, and I absolutely love it. Well, guys, that is pretty much it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up down below. We really appreciate that. Subscribe to us here on YouTube if you haven't already. We also have a ton of social media links down in the video description. We do a ton of different video reviews on TV shows, movies, everything. Go check out all of our videos, and I'll leave a few playlists here in the video. So until next time, guys, we'll see you soon.